This video is going to be looking at quantum physics, quantum energy particles. So I'm just going to get some images up of quantum energy particles. So here's some images of quantum energy particles, and these are DNA strands that have been created, written, because it's a code for life, and this code has been written by quantum energy. That is what has written the code, and it operates on the law of vibration, and that is what connects different particles, different quantum energies with each other, that then utilise various elements within the universe, such as all the elements produced by supernova, in order to create biological life and ultimately intelligent human consciousness. Now, the energy that created human consciousness as part of universal life on Earth, that is expressed in the plant life and all the creatures on Earth, including ourselves, did so within the harmony of universal energies, and so we are fundamentally connected to all the life on our planet, and also our universe, the external universe that created our planet in the first place. Now, the way that the human world is operating at the moment is on the principle that we can live outside of universal reality, and outside, totally disconnected really from the natural world, other than to exploit it and do more or less what we like with it in the interests of satisfying our own world, apparently our own world, that has been created on the strength of everything that the universe and this planet has provided. But our world, it seems, rooted in money and all the thoughts that money creates and that money serves, is more important than the universe that created us. We can totally ignore any new knowledge that comes into being and carry on living as we did before we knew what we know today. Okay? Now, it would appear that for centuries and centuries, humanity had an intuitive understanding about our soul, about our eternal quantum energy, light being bodies, and spirit. Because the human spirit, thoughts, that's what spirit is, thoughts. Everything that happens in your brain happens through a process of electrical energies which are entirely powered by quantum energies. Those energies do not die. Those energies that form our consciousness are vibrationally attuned to each other, as is all the quantum energy that's stored in our body is vibrationally attuned to one another. They stay together. They leave the human body when the physical body is no longer capable of sustaining life. Okay? So the physical body is stopped, the quantum energy then has to leave the physical body. Will very likely inhabit another human physical body, because that person's vibrational energy is connected to the human biological host. That is what people understood thousands of years ago. That's what the Druids understood. That's what most natural cultures understood intuitively. And now their intuitive knowledge, the same knowledge that Jesus believed in and shared with humanity, okay, has now been scientifically proven as a fact. Our bodies are full of this quantum energy, and our thoughts are powered by this quantum energy. New knowledge demands new actions and new ways of living. And to live outside of knowledge, to ignore new knowledge that supports previously only believed knowledge, which nonetheless lots of people continue to have faith in, well, I'm sorry, faith alone is not enough if you're not actually doing something with that faith, like Jesus did. What did Jesus do? And people like Jesus, whether you believe Jesus existed or not, the consciousness that he shared is a universal one, supported by living people throughout every century who called for human rights, who called for dignity, respect, who called for fair law and a fair society, who questioned the denial of women and children's rights and the denial of animal rights, who have continually stood by our human right to live with compassion and in compassion. Because this isn't about a religious faith. This is about actual facts of knowledge. Now, as somebody who has witnessed universal golden light being and received from that through an energy of bliss the message of universal law of abundance in compassion, which I've been trying to share, while on the other hand standing up for the human child's rights to be protected and to grow up in a humane, lawful world on an educated, well, within an educated, intelligent, compassionate consciousness that operates on intelligent, compassionate law. But nobody's interested. Nobody's interested whatsoever. Nobody's interested in the new knowledge. I go out, I meet with people. They want to tell me about the holidays, the new house, or how they're struggling, or how they've been ill. And everything's very, well, I might as well be talking to the BBC News. Where are you? Now, the consciousness, the living consciousness, will always judge the previous generation for their failures or their successes. And this living generation today is damned. And it is damned to hell. If the living people of today don't get with the new knowledge and start standing up for their human rights, on the strength of the new knowledge. That does tell us you're all coming back. There is a quantum paradise. There are other, more humane, lawful planets in this universe, far more advanced than we are right now. But people who've not reached that level of consciousness, who've not reached that vibrational energy, are never going to get there. You will all be coming back. That's why Jesus explained, work for the afterlife. Work today for what you would like, for what you will need in the afterlife. What is the afterlife? That's your next life. In the next world you're going to be born into, on earth. So what's this next world that you're all coming back to? What are the foundations of it that you can see are being laid for you all today? Well, let's just start with the unrepayable forever debt and the forever austerity that you've all been promised. Why don't you consider these? Here you go. Artificial wombs. Okay. That's what they're moving on to next. Factory-born children owned by the corporation. Produced and owned by the corporation. You think that they're not going to do it? That they can't do it? Well, actually, they bloody well can. Okay? They've already done it with goats. They probably are already doing it with humans, for all we know. Apparently, they're creating this to care for premature babies. This is a corporate world that's quite happy to watch millions of children starve in order for them to get their profits. But, you know, they're so concerned about keeping premature babies alive. These people who kill babies and sacrifice them to their Luciferian god, so-called, stroke criminal. You know, they're really concerned about keeping premature babies alive. No, they're not. They want full control. When they say they want full control, they mean full control. Now, is it likely to be a person doing this? Or a robot? And the kind of consciousness that is controlling all of this technology and all the money is a Luciferian society. Okay? And you don't need to take my word for it. Just go and have a look at the information out there. But perhaps you'll listen to this man. Right, so this is Ronald Bernard, and I do trust this person. I believe that he's telling the truth. I've checked him out, and he is trying to actually do something. Now, he's learnt something with the knowledge he understands, and he's established the Bank of Joy, which is an alternative banking system, and I do advise people to look into it. And also the British people who are trying to set up alternative banking ideas in Britain maybe should have a look at this as well and perhaps connect with it. So anyway, I'm just going to play you a short extract from Ronald Bernard's video, which is subtitled at the bottom and is also overlaid with English, you know, an English voiceover. And
To put it carefully, most of these people followed a not very mainstream religion. So, you have Catholics, Protestants, all sorts of religions. These people, most of them, were Luciferians. And then you can say, religion is a fairy tale. God doesn't exist. None of that is real. Well, for these people, it is truth and reality. And they served something immaterial, what they called Lucifer. And I also was in contact with those circles, only I laughed at it because to me they were just clients. So, I went to places called churches of Satan.
So now we are talking about Satanism.
Yes. So, I visited these churches, just as a visitor dropped by, and then they were doing their holy mass with naked woman and liquor and stuff. And it just amused me. I didn't believe in any of this stuff, and was far from convinced if any of this was real.
It was just a spectacle to you.
Yes. In my opinion, the darkness and evil is within the people themselves. I didn't make the connection yet. So I was a guest in those circles, and it amused me greatly to see all those named women and the other things. It was the good life. But then at some point, I was invited, which is why I'm telling you all this, to participate in sacrifices abroad. That was the breaking point. Children.
You were asked to do that?
Yes. And I couldn't do that.
Would you like to stop for a moment, by the way?
No. And then I started to slowly break down. I lived through quite a lot as a child myself, and this really touched me deeply. Everything changed. But that is the world I found myself in. And then I started to refuse assignments within my job. I could no longer do it, which made me a threat. I was no longer capable of functioning optimally. My performance started to shake and I had refused tasks. I had not participated. The purpose of the whole thing, eventually, in that world, is that they have everybody in their pocket. You need to be susceptible to blackmail. And blackmailing me proved to be very hard if I look back on it. They wanted to do that through those children. And that broke me.
Is that, you are not telling me something new, what they also do in politics?
If you Google this, you'll find enough worldwide witness accounts to know this isn't a Walt Disney fairy tale. Unfortunately, the truth is that worldwide they have been doing this for thousands of years. I once studied theology, and even in the Bible you find references to these practices with Israelites. The reason the first 10 tribes were banished to Babylonia was because of these rituals with children, including the sacrificing of children. So this is pertinent. All this made me believe, because I realized there was more to life than meets the eye. There is a whole invisible world. It is real. You really do talk about a dark force and a manifestation of light. So, I resorted to studying theology to make sense of it all.
And psychology as well, if I remember correctly?
Yes, but that I did in my first life, because through commercial psychology, mass psychology, I was able to manipulate situations for my own benefit.
That is scary, because if you dig into that you find Tavistock Institute and mind control, MK Ultra, Monarch and the like.
Yes, that is correct, but that was all part of the job. Through training at the job, I got into that more deeply, because when you are making deals, you also need to manipulate the media. You have to manipulate lots of things because nothing can be seen as it is. Everything has to appear to be something different. You see the people as a flock of sheep. You put a couple of border collies and drive them in a direction. And to be honest with you, I still see that happening around me. People are still, through the systems and methods that we ourselves used to use, being treated in that same way, and it still works. People still don't understand how it really works and are still on the level of as long as I have my beer and whatever, completely self-absorbed, also a survival mechanism. I mean, it is the program after all. But you still see how stupidly easy it is to put people in a certain direction, when you are the one pulling the strings, that is.
Mass psychology.
Yes, and later, much later, in all those studies and discoveries, I found a document which they are claiming is bullshit, of course, the Protocols of Zion. And nowadays I recommend everyone to read the whole of that incredibly boring document. Just work through it, read it though.
We are also talking about Zionism.
Yes, of course. If you read the Protocols of Zion and really study them and understand, then it is like reading the newspaper of the daily life. How from their position of ultimate power, and ultimate it has literally become. But that is only because the people don't stand up for themselves. They don't realize what reality is.
And we have all been programmed. If you dare to say you are against Zionism, then you are branded an anti-Semite.
The negative, you can say evil, the Luciferians, the Satanists. Whatever you wish to call it, it is a real entity. I have found that what is written in the Bible, and not just the Bible, you can find it in so many books. There really has been a moment of separation from the manifestation of light, in which a group went their own way and are carrying an intense hatred, anger. The people who do not underestimate the severity of this are but few, because this is an all-annihilating force that hates our guts. It hates creation. It hates life. And it will do anything to destroy us completely. And the way to do that is to divide humanity. Divide and conquer is their truth. Humanity is a manifestation of light. That is the true creation. As long as you divide them based on political parties, skin color, you name it, then you, from a Luciferian point of view that is, suppress the full capacities of your enemy, their full power. They can't stand up for themselves, because if that would happen, the Luciferians would lose. Then this monster, the greedy monster, would disappear. I tell people about this old American general who puts an entire room of people in the dark. The eyes adapt to the darkness, but you can't see a thing. The general doesn't say a word and suddenly he flicks on a lighter, one little light. And due to the prolonged darkness, you experience a manifestation of light from a single point and everyone can slightly see each other again. And then he says, that is the power of our light.
Beautiful.
Unite. Unite. Come together. And this entire shit story ceases to exist. That's how fast it could happen.
So there you go. That's how fast it could happen. And that's how fast it needs to happen to save our planet and to give hope to the next generation. And it needs to happen now, in this life, in our lives, because we are the last living line of defence between total darkness for the next generation, total Luciferian rule, until they've completely destroyed the planet because they are mad and they live separately from the universal intelligence that created us. So therefore they're not intelligent, because intelligent people live by an intelligent law, which is universal law of abundance and compassion, which upholds our human rights and animal rights and child rights, plant rights, women's rights, earth rights. And I've not listed those rights in any order of priority, because they are all a high priority. They all stand equal. Now, if you're not going to listen to Ronald Bernard, you're not going to listen to people like myself who are experienced, then you will live out to the full the Protocols of Zion. They were published in English around 1911. People for decades said that they were a hoax. Well, if they really are a hoax, they have come to pass. They are happening now. So I'm just going to get you a link up with the Protocols of Zion. I will leave you all the links to everything I've shown here below this video. And as Ronald Bernard suggests, do read them. Take the time and trouble to read this insane document. So these are the Protocols of Zion. Now, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Now, quite a few years ago, when I first got on the internet and I was researching things like the Protocols of Zion, it was very, very easy to get these links up, to find straight away. As soon as you wrote Protocols of the Elders of Zion, you'd come up with something like this, which, you know, it's a site that's called itself Jew Watch, though we do need to understand that actually the Zionists really have got absolutely nothing to do with Judaism, other than they've usurped the Judaic faith, and by feeding and supporting anti-Jewish sentiment throughout the decades since Zionism invented itself, they have managed to come to represent Jews, because the Zionists were from the start a group of very powerful banking interests like the Rothschilds, and so they have the power to cut through their money. As Rothschild says, I care not what government runs a nation, so long as I can control the nation's money. It doesn't make no difference who's in power, because the people with money will ensure the people they want get into power, by hook or by crook. And they do that in all the ways that Ronald Bernard has just explained. Divide and rule. And we can see it happening in Britain, that it's continually happened in Britain, because it doesn't really matter whether Britain is filled with a completely so-called white British native population, or whether it's filled with a variety of various ethnic backgrounds who are also British people because they've been born here, or because they've been invited to live here. It really doesn't make no difference, because there will always be divisions. There'll either be really serious divisions between people because of their different football clubs they support. There'll be divisions between the rich and poor, divisions between male and female, divisions between adults and children. Divisions between people who drink alcohol and don't drink alcohol. Divisions between people who take drugs and who don't take drugs. Divisions between people who support this political party or that political party, or who are of this faith or that faith. Catholic and Protestants was quite a biggie in centuries gone by. People were killing each other in the streets and burning Catholics. The only thing that changes are the reasons for why we feel the need suddenly to hate our neighbour, to hate each other, to hate and distrust each other. That's the only thing that changes, because as time goes on and people think, yeah, you know, people have a right to worship the faith, as long as they're not harming anybody and they're not causing trouble for people, then what difference does it make? I'm happy to be with the Jew. The Jewish person treats me with respect, I treat them with respect. I'm happy to live with the Muslim treats me with respect, I treat them with respect. Basically, we all follow the same singular God, concept of God. Muslims believe in Jesus just as much as I believe in Jesus. Jewish people might not accept Jesus as we do, as a messenger from universal intelligence, but nonetheless they do accept us as human beings, and they are prepared to benefit from our kindness. So what they choose to believe really doesn't make no difference, as long as they're not oppressing and harming us. And although they might not accept Jesus as a true Judaic messenger from Jah, nonetheless they are accepting us as human beings, and they are treating us with respect as human beings. So today in Britain we're all fighting each other, you know, there's this racing. Apparently there's 100,000 radical Muslims in Britain that we all need to be really scared of. The fact is, there's probably about 2 or 3 million dangerous paedophiles operating in Britain, who are fundamentally damaging our children, who they think they can play with as sex toys, because that is the consciousness that is ruling us. And just as their money system operates on a trickle-down effect, so too does their psychosexual disease, that is the creation of their worship of Lucifer. And Lucifer is a total fiction. It is a concept of man, the male, as the total ruling power on earth, who, because he's the strongest, he's the mightiest, and therefore he has a right to do as he wills. That is Aleister Crowley's satanic law. Except it wasn't Aleister Crowley's creation. He just dug it up and re-promoted it. But that is the law that the elites of this world have been operating on for centuries. And it is a criminal law. The law itself, that law itself, is a crime. Because might is not always right. And the truth is that it is right that is might. And something is right because it is true, it is correct, it is balanced, it is perfect. Like, for example, the rightness that created our planet and all the life upon it. And as Ronald Bernard correctly explains, these people are full of anger and hate, and they seek to destroy life or else fully control it, but being so crazy they have no nurture in them other than to satisfy their own depraved desires and fantasies. And so, like, they are a cancer. They're a psychological cancer that does actually create cancer within the human host, to the extent that, according to present day statistics, 1 in 3 of us can expect to die from cancer. Which really is what? An epidemic. It was unheard of in previous centuries. So, these are the protocols of Zion. If you Google this into the net now, all you're going to see is articles about how it's a hoax, how it's a lingering hoax. Well, it isn't a hoax, because the hoax has happened, is happening, it is real, it is a real blueprint being followed by real people. And Christians are buying it all because, hey, look, it's all been told, it's all been foretold in Revelations. And then those same people refuse to accept that Revelations itself actually is a hoax. This is real. Revelations is a hoax. It was presented as the work of St. John the Apostle, but archaeological evidence has irrefutably confirmed today that those revelations were not written by St. John the Apostle. They were written by misogynist, Rome-hater, anti-Christian Cerinthus, a Greek Gnostic, who plagiarised the original Testament prophecies, reconstructed them to promote his Luciferian God, who states very clearly, I am the morning star. And he presents that Luciferian character as Jesus. Jesus, who stands with the 144,000 pure male souls, people, who were pure only because they had, quote, never defiled themselves with women. And thereby implying that it doesn't matter if they've defiled themselves with children instead. Because obviously sex with children isn't a defilement, as long as they haven't touched women. As long as they've not dirtied themselves with women. And prophecies that everybody believes and accepts as truth end up coming true. The self-fulfilling prophecies. Prophecies from the Old Testament that were meant to be a warning to previous and present generations about the dangers of what will and does happen when people live lawlessly and refuse to accept compassionate intelligence as provided by the universe that created us through the quantum light energy. No, instead of understanding that they're a warning, people believe that actually we need to fulfill these prophecies. So therefore people of today have actually less intelligence than the people of Nineveh thousands of years ago. Because Jah compelled Jonah, who even jumped over board of a ship to avoid giving the horrendous prophecy that Jah wanted him to give to the people of Nineveh. But no, Jah said, no, you must go and deliver this prophecy to these people and tell them all the terrible things that I'm going to do, that is going to happen to them because of their lawless, criminal, immoral ways of life. Go and tell them that total destruction is going to befall them. Go and explain it to them. And Jonah didn't want to do it. But in the end, he did. He went to those people and he told them in no uncertain terms everything the higher intelligence had instructed him to repeat to them. And as soon as they heard this, all those people fell down on their knees, begged for forgiveness, and immediately changed and started to live ethically, morally and lawfully. And Jah decided, okay then, I am not going to do all those terrible, horrible things to these people. And Jonah was very upset about this because, you know, he'd been told to go and prophesy to these people, these are the things that are going to happen to you, and then they didn't happen. And Jah explains to them, but they stopped doing the bad things, so I forgave them. Because you see, Jah is merciful. Jah takes everything into account. And the whole purpose of the prophecy was to warn people, if they didn't heed the warning, what is the point of warning people about terrible things that will happen if those people haven't got a chance to stop those terrible things from happening and to take steps so good things happen instead? That's the point of a prophecy. The point of a prophecy is not that we do everything in our power to ensure and support those who want to ensure that that prophecy comes exactly true. Because if you read Revelations, it does say that in spite of all Jesus and his 144,000, the whole planet was going to be destroyed anyway, and Jah would create a new planet. Now we know that one day, through the natural processes of time, the planet will be destroyed. And by that time, we'll probably have the technology to save our planet and or to create a new planet. Or to find a new planet. Because that's going to be in about, what, 500 million years? 1 billion years? We haven't even been here as in our present life form. We haven't even been here for 100 million years yet. Never mind 1 billion. And this philosophy, you see, that wants to fulfill these evil revelations, so-called, as Ronald Bernard said, they are Luciferians, they do hate life, and they do want to destroy life, and they'd be quite happy to destroy most of the planet and leave a little bit on it for them to live on, to live out their seriously sadistic and crazy delusions. And they won't survive. So the planet won't be destroyed in 1 billion years by natural forces, by which time we'll have technology to do whatever. No, the planet will be destroyed in, what, less than 1,000 years, less than 500 years, less than 200 years. In 100 years this planet could be totally destroyed. If we carry on living as all we need to do is just carry on living as we're living now. The human consciousness has deteriorated to the extent that nothing means anything anymore. Nobody's interested. Everybody just goes to school, leaves school. You know, this is the consciousness that's ruling the world. Britain is a leading global consciousness. What happens in Britain, what the British people do, think, believe, wear and eat and buy has a serious impact on billions of people in all the countries that have traditionally been exploited and continue to be exploited by British interests. And we know that the elite of Britain are thoroughly Zionist. They thoroughly serve Zion. They ride the back of that beast. And so does the Church of England, because the head of the Church of England, its Pope, is our Queen. Because that's what the monarchy of Britain did. It removed the Pope and placed itself as Pope over our church. And that church was already a monster, a Luciferian monster, a twisted, evil version of Christianity that does not serve Jesus and actually has got nothing at all to do with Jesus other than the fact that they're still vamping off his dead body and his living blood, which runs through us because Jesus explained that he is in all of us and not just men either. So what we're dealing with here, the protocols of the learners of the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, or as I call them, the idiots, the learned elders of idiots. These are the things, you see. Right is might. Right is might, they're saying. Except it isn't right, because already they're saying that the word right is an abstract force proved by nothing. Our right lies in force. So right isn't might, is it? Might is right according to them, and that is the foundation of Luciferian law. If you're mighty, you're always righty. So if you're a mighty psychopath, you don't need to have empathy or compassion or take human feelings into account, human emotions. We shall end liberty. And yes, they end liberty by promoting liberty for criminals. Criminals have full liberty in our world, as Ronald Bernard explains. Destructive education. Poverty, our weapon. And it is, because all you need to do is make people poor, and that's it. They've got absolutely no rights. They're suddenly lesser human beings. You can ignore poor people. Stay away from them if you're rich. We support communism. Yes, they do. Jews will be safe. No, they won't. Okay, only Jews who support the Zionist cult and its Luciferian God will be apparently safe, except nobody's actually safe within this context. So, you know, I've shared these before, but as I say, they're getting harder and harder to find on the internet. Because now, when you type this in, you're just going to get pages and pages of how it's a lingering hoax. Try it. Google it. So these are all the protocols, explains everything that they've got planned. The Jewish superstate, well, they've already got that, haven't they? And the weapons in our hands are limitless ambitions, burning greediness, merciless vengeance, hatreds and malice. And that's exactly what is going on right now in Britain. Okay? Limitless ambitions, burning greediness, merciless vengeance, hatreds and malice. That is what is being fostered. And that is one of the reasons why I'm so disgusted at Brexit. Because I could have been quite happy with Brexit, with leaving the EU, if the British people had got together to do that with a proposal, a very firm, solid proposal for what we were going to do once we were out of the EU. But I'm not very happy to go along with that in order to leave my country to be governed, continue being governed by Zionists, and that the only reason why we're out of the EU is because of people's burning hatred against immigrants. Because burning hatred isn't really an alternative, is it? Burning hatred doesn't do anything to protect us from the evil powers that are governing the whole of Europe, including Britain. Burning hatred isn't an alternative, is it, to burning hatred? Because where the burning hatred is coming from are from the elites who have hated Britain and everything that Britain did after World War II. They've hated it with a vengeance, to the point that they've manipulated and controlled people in order that people will just casually allow the removal and total breakdown of everything that our ancestors sacrificed their very lives for, and who suffered through great hardships for centuries and 2 world wars. But that's all right. We can just throw all that away, because the only thing that needs to carry on through time is the royal lineage and the House of Lords and Parliament. The Queen's crown with her jewels. Oh no, we're never going to remove her, the prime jewel in her crown, are we? No, 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 that would be unthinkable. But we can get rid of the NHS, the jewel in the crown of our welfare state, of our humane society. Because we don't want a humane society, do we? We want reasons to hate each other. We want division. We want oppression. We want this class war. We want the opportunity to win in the capitalist competitions and to justifiably condemn and judge the people who didn't make it because they were too weak. Because it's all about survival of the fittest, isn't it? Well, yes it is. Certainly it is. That is very true. That is what humanity, that is what life is about. Survival of the fittest. And what does it take to be fit, to be a human? Intelligence. That's what it takes to survive on our planet. Knowledge. Animals are born with it by instinct. But we're not here to live by instincts, because we're here to think ahead and plan and do things to protect the life on our planet and care for it. So we need to learn about it. We need the capacity to learn. We need the capacity to think ahead, to take everything into account. And the moment we stop doing that, we are unfit and we will not survive. And so to people who've brought children into this world, you have a responsibility as parents now to think and to learn. And if you can't, then I'm very sorry for you and your children. And the truth is that those who have refused to learn, you will be coming back again and again and again until the very end. Because it is what you deserve, it's what you've attuned to, it's where your vibrations resonate with. Do you want to come back? Do you want to come back to the hell that you're leaving behind? A hell that's only going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And as bad as you think it is now, it can get worse and worse and worse. And that's why I've taken the time and trouble to spend an hour of my time freely sharing my understanding, my life story, my experience and knowledge, and also the experience and knowledge of others whom I have faith in and trust. Okay? And this is a prime example. Methods of organisation like these, imperceptible to the public eye, but absolutely sure are the best calculated to succeed in bringing the intentions and the confidence of the public to the side of our government. There you go. Whatever the government wants, they will manipulate through their media, and they will appeal to the lowest denominators. Thanks to such methods, we shall be in a position, as from time to time may be required, to excite or to tranquilise the public mind on political questions, to persuade or to confuse, printing now truth, now lies, facts or their contradictions, according as they may be well or ill received, always very cautiously feeling our ground before stepping upon it. There you go. Well, they felt the ground as far as child abuse goes in Britain. The British public aren't interested. Okay? London children have just been denied justice in an outrageous case that does involve professionals trafficking and murdering eating babies as part of a huge Luciferian worshipping CSA ring that is comprised of members of every single London authority, from police to social workers, teachers, you name it, they're all in there. But that doesn't matter. We can ignore that. We don't mind being governed by sadistic, baby-eating monsters. No. As long as we have our beer and whatever. And it's a waste of time trying to do anything about it anyway, because you're never going to stop them. But it isn't about stopping them, is it? It is about us living our right to be human. It's about us having our rights. It's not about stopping them, because none of them are going to be stopped until we achieve our full rights and until we establish our humane universal law. Until we shine our lights and obliterate their darkness and rescue the children, not in a spirit of hatred and vengeance, because hatred and vengeance doesn't protect children. It just unleashes more of that same monstrous consciousness that incites hatred and vengeance in the first place. Hate what they're doing, but understand these people are insane. They need locking up in psychiatric units. We need to address the psychosexual disease. We need to eradicate it. And we're not going to do that with hatred and vengeance. The only way that we're going to do that is with these child protection directives. And we do it calmly, methodically, humanely. No lynchings and hangings of everybody we think we're a paedophile. We don't want no mob justice, because that is what we are living under. We are living under mob justice delivered by a mob that has been placed itself in power through time. A consciousness that has survived through totally ignoring the truth of Jesus, persuading everybody to believe and have faith in this fake sham Jesus that actually does nothing for anybody apart from we'll give ourselves presents at Christmas and chocolate eggs at Easter, and establish a few charities here and there. And then you find out that most of the charities are harbouring child abusers. So, we shall have a sure triumph over our opponents, since they will not have at their disposition organs of the press in which they can give full and final expression to their views. Very true. There was a D notice put on the Hampstead case. Apparently, it's a matter of national security. You know, that is what our national security depends on. It's denying justice to children. That's how crazy our species is. That is how crazy you are, British public. That's how crazy they've made us. It's not people's fault. But don't expect to get any forgiveness in the next life, because once you've left this physical body, no. You chose, you ignored, you've claimed yourself to be an intelligent person, apparently one of the highest civilisations on this planet. You've had a right to eat, drink and have a roof over your head while billions of people in this world haven't. And you've shown that you're totally inhumane because you're incapable of taking anything into account. So, you know, maybe you should come back as a worm. Or a fox. Or maybe you should come back to carry on living in the hell that you helped to create and thought you could escape from through death. Well, there is no such thing as death, so there is no escape. So like I say, humanity, you either roll up your sleeves and get active and start standing up for your rights, lose the hate, forget the xenophobia that they're trying to infect everybody with at the moment. And they are using the internet to do it. It's absolutely full of Muslim hatred right now, which does nothing at all except push even moderate Muslims to becoming extremists, which they will do if they're getting attacked by acid by people shouting Allahu Akbar. You see, that's it. Owing to the aforesaid methods of dealing with the press, we shall not even need to refute them, except very superficially. And there you go, and that's what we got with the Hampstead case. A superficial judgment, and all reported and presented to the public by a superficial press and BBC. All calculations are especially extended to the provinces. It is indispensable for us to inflame those hopes and impulses with which we could at any moment fall upon the capital, and we shall represent to the capitals that these expressions are the independent hopes and impulses of the provinces. Naturally, the source of them will always be one and the same, ours. What we need is that, until such time as we are in the plenitude of power, the capitals should find themselves stifled by the provincial opinion of the nations, i.e. of a majority, arranged by our agenteur. What we need is that at the psychological moment the capital should not be in a position to discuss an accomplished fact for the simple reason, if for no other, that it has been accepted by the public opinion of a majority in the provinces. When we are in the period of the new regime transitional to that of our assumption of full sovereignty, we must not admit any revelation by the press of any form of public dishonesty. It is necessary that the new regime should be thought to have so perfectly contented everybody that even criminality has disappeared. Cases of the manifestation of criminality should remain known only to their victims and to chance witnesses no more. And there you go. The Hampstead case should only be known to their victims and us chance witnesses. No, nothing can be written in the press about it. Because then it would have credibility, wouldn't it? In order to distract people who may be too troublesome from discussions of questions of the political we are now putting forward what we allege to be new questions of the political, namely questions of industry. In this sphere, let them discuss themselves silly. The masses are agreed to remain inactive, to take a rest from what they suppose to be political, which we train them to do in order to use them as a means of combating the Goy governments. That's non-Jews, Goy. Only on condition of being found new employments in which we are prescribing them something that looks like the same political objective, in order that the masses themselves may not guess what we are about, we further distract them with amusements, games, pastimes, passions, people's palaces. Soon we shall begin through the press to propose competitions in art, in sport of all kinds, which they did, and they do, and they continue. There you go, Gentiles are cattle. We demand submission. We shall be cruel. Our absolutism will in all things be logically consecutive, and therefore, in each one of its decrees, our supreme will must be respected and unquestionably fulfilled. It will ignore all murmurs, all discontents and every kind, and will destroy to the root of every kind of manifestation of them in act by punishment of an exemplary character. There you go. Well, they did that, didn't they? Apparently, they crucified Jesus in order to show people what happens to good people on this planet. What happens in this world to people who dare shine your light? Well, they end up getting nailed to a cross, don't they? And we all get to feast through a ritual sacrifice on their body and blood, while kneeling before the instrument of that torturous death. No, we don't. First, we have no evidence at all whatsoever that Jesus was actually crucified. People are living by a total lie about Jesus. They still don't understand that he was married, that he had children. But, you know, let's just believe the myths. We won't bother to check out the truth for ourselves. We'll just accept revelation. It's written in the Bible. We've been told that book was written by God. Well, it wasn't. The New Testament was put together by Romans, who usurped Christianity after murdering most of the true Christians. And they decided to put revelations in. And actually there was a lot of people spoke out against it being included, because it is so misogynistic and actually evil. And because it is a plagiarism of the Old Testament, original Testament prophecies, that has totally twisted them out of all proportion and taken them totally out of context. But because people have believed in them for so many centuries, now we are experiencing the reality of them. So yes, we do have our Queen Pope, don't we, riding the beast of the Catholic Church with its 7 heads in finance, in religion, in corporate control. In Zionism, in radical Islam, you name it, it's there, innit? That beast that they ride, that beast of finance, with its illegal laws, its criminal education system that fundamentally denies children the right and opportunity to learn how to be a human being, to learn how to be a parent, to learn how to live humanely. All that. No, you're not going to be educated about that. You're going to be educated about what is needed for you to be a successful slave. But it's all a madness, because the prophecy was never really, that prophecy was never from Jah intelligence. So it's a madness, self-serving itself with the blueprint of its madness, that it's saying we are justified. We are justified to destroy the planet. We are justified to just kill people and spread misery and horror through the world. We're justified. Look, we're satisfying Jar's revelations. And humanity's still buying it. So that's the future. Women. Okay? Women who for centuries have had no power, been literally raped and robbed. Our children removed from our care, denied the rights of our true love as true, independent, autonomous beings. Instead, our children raised to look down on us and judge us and treat us like chattel. Well, chattel exists to raise chattel. And that is exactly what humanity has become. Exactly what the Zionists described us as, cattle. And it seems that we're so stupid that even today, with all the knowledge at our fingertips, that still we're going to live like cattle, because as long as the trough's full to some extent, we'll be happy with what we've got. And you know, if there's a God, yeah, well, I've been a good person. I've put my 50p in the Oxfam box without even caring a jot that if Oxfam really were going to ever do anything to help the poor, there would be no poor by now, because they would have stood up for their rights. But oh no, Oxfam isn't about standing up for their rights. It exists purely to make you think that you're helping and that something is being done, when in fact all that's being given is a few crumbs, and the majority of the money that you give is going towards charity workers' wages and advertisers, and that in fact most of those charities are a cover now for child trafficking and child sexual abuse and murder. So there you go, there's your future, humanity. You have your choice. You have the choice of either following universal golden light intelligence and living forever in joy and raising healthy future generations of human who are intellectually fit, or you will suffer exactly as he has described, and when the facades finally drop, they have full control, and then they will be expecting you to hand over your firstborn for sacrifice. You think that isn't going to happen? You think that's unthinkable? Well, it isn't. It's already happening, and they will be doing it quite openly as soon as they get the chance. So be prepared, humanity. You have been warned. And I'm not a prophet. That's why Muhammad was the last prophet. Prophet Muhammad of Islam was the last prophet. Because you don't need to be a prophet anymore to know what they're going to do, and to know what they have planned and how things will be. You don't need to be a prophet. So it's your choice, humanity. You have been warned, not just by me, but by lots of people, both present and in the past. We have our guides. We have been guided by those people as well about the right way to go about delivering positive change for future generations, for this and future generations. We have the guide to do things lawfully, stand up for your rights. Are we going to listen? Are you going to take heed? What have you done today to stand up for your own and your children's rights? And that will be the question. That will be the question. That will be on your conscience when your soul leaves this present physical body. Because to be a human being is to be responsible for what's happening on this planet. And in Jah's eyes, everybody is equal. So, everybody is equally responsible. Think and act responsibly.